Today's episode of Pool Magazine podcast is proudly sponsored by the PSP Deck Expo. The International Pool Spa Patio Expo, co-located with Deck Expo, is where all segments of the industry gather to stay well-informed of the latest trends, market directions, and technology. Come for the 135,000 plus square feet of products, suppliers, and education. And stay longer for networking, special events, and experiences. This year's Expo in Dallas will be held from November 9th through November 14th. To learn more about attending the PSP Deck Expo, visit us on the web at www.poolspapatio.com.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Pool Magazine podcast. Today I'm chatting with Justin Bowie, owner of JMAX Companies. The company has a few different divisions, but they're probably best known as one of the leading pool plumbing companies in Arizona and have established a reputation as one of the leading firms specializing in the plumbing of residential and commercial pools. It's a pleasure to have you with us today on the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You know, I feel like I know you already after listening to you so much on the Pool Chasers podcast. And I've watched some of the videos that you guys have done on YouTube. It's nice to be able to connect.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here too.
So aside from your endeavors with the podcast, you're in the trenches every day. And I know you're pretty passionate about educating other folks in the trade on the best practices, both from an application standpoint and a business perspective. I thought a good starting point for today's discussion would be to first just have you introduce yourself, give our listeners a little bit of background about who you are and what JMAX is all about.
Sure, absolutely. So again, Justin Bowie, JMAX Plumbing. We're out here in Phoenix, Arizona. I started in the swimming pool business in 2000, and I was going to school out here, started cleaning pools, ended up working for a pool plumber at one of the larger construction firms here. Started my pool plumbing journey right then and basically learned from the bottom up. I started in the trenches. I was just the helper, learned to dig, all the stuff you don't want to do, grunt work. Ended up getting my own crew. I was one of the better crews at the company. Then I ended up with being one of the larger crews at the company, doing the larger work. The owner of that company took me in basically as his right-hand man. I ran his company for 5 years in his office, made the company better, put processes in place, really kind of elevated his business. Unfortunately, 2008 hit. There was the recession, and I made the decision at that time that instead of rebuilding with him, I was going to part ways. I was obviously his highest paid employee. It gave him some relief to offload me. And then I went out on my own, started at the worst time to be looking for work. But I think it forged me into a pretty strong business owner, and luckily was successful and have been plumbing ever since with my own company.
I think it was maybe a little over a year ago. I think I saw you appear in Pool Pro magazine, but that's not the first time I became acquainted with your firm. You work with a lot of well-known builders and designers out there. Folks like Creative Environments, Rick Chafee over at Red Rock, Shasta Pools, Venetian Outdoors, and the list goes on. I mean, what's the trajectory been like for your company since you guys got started? And how did you get to the point where, you became a market leader in Phoenix?
Yeah, so I think the trajectory was when I first went out on my own, we would take anything that we could get, or I would take anything I could get. And then I was fortunate enough to connect with people like Rick Chafee and Creative Environments. They were actually my first client. And I think the trajectory we took was by connecting with those guys and never saying no. The guy that I worked for before and most of our competitors want to do the smaller stuff, the easy stuff, the in and out. So I think connecting with those guys, not saying no, taking on bigger projects, it really elevated our company and pushed us kind of into that spotlight of, high, super luxury, high-end stuff. It's not to say we don't do the production stuff. We do a ton of production stuff. As a matter of fact, a big portion of our revenue is production stuff. But I think we're one of the only guys doing this much volume of the super high-end projects. And it's because of those relationships that we forged early on. And again, it was all about never saying no. Those guys are very ambitious on their pool projects, and they needed somebody like us who was, young. We were ready to take anything on, never said no, and just let her rip, and luckily we were successful too. We had a lot of projects that things had never been done before, or maybe for example, when the Lautner edges first came out, and we tackled those and we were successful. And so it kind of elevated all of us.
Yeah, I see some of the folks you're working with. I mean, these are the higher echelon guys. I mean, Rick Chafee, for those of you who don't know, he's over at Ask the Masters. He does a lot of high-end work. But, working with the best of the best, you must see your fair share of complicated projects. What are some of the challenges that you faced with your business as you kind of transition from doing a lot of that production stuff to being like the point people for the plumbing work on all of these higher end jobs?
I think we had a couple challenges. So first, technically speaking, those projects where you have those crazy features, they're generally on hillsides. The products are higher end customers, so you don't have as much room for error. So, physically speaking, it was a lot tougher to do the work. And at the same time, it's also a lot tougher to do the invoicing on those types of jobs and bid those types of jobs and be profitable in those types of jobs. So those were the biggest challenges. And that was the learning curve, figuring out, okay, we can't get in and out of this like a production job. This is on the side of a hill. Whereas a production job, we could be in and out in 3 days. We might have 3 days just loading material onto this site because we're coming up the side of a hill. There's no access for trucks. So it was stuff like that. And obviously the technical parts, those projects, you're way more involved in the plumbing. The plumbing is way more critical, especially on like the Lautner Edges pool. I'll say that again. The Lautner Edge pools, when we first started doing those, you got gravity systems that you have to carry slope in your plumbing, and it's very unforgiving when you don't meet all those criteria and demands. So that was the challenge.
Sure. I mean, can you talk to me a little bit about what differentiates the approach at JMAX from some of your competitors? I mean, you insinuated a minute ago that you worked for a different pool company back in the day for a number of years until the Great Recession. But what was the one thing that stuck in your mind that made you want to strike out on your own? And what did you want to do differently with your own firm that wasn't happening at the last company you were with?
If I boiled it down to one thing, I think it was the willingness to do the big projects and the complicated stuff. Like I said, nobody who's in business to make money in our industry anyway wants to do the complicated big stuff. You're more liability exposed. It's harder to invoice those jobs. It's harder to make money. So I think that's what really set our firm apart. We were 100% open arms, welcoming to taking on the bigger, crazier stuff and really pushing the limits of what could be done on these pools.
Did you know how to do these jobs, these bigger jobs, when you first started taking them on? Or did you have to go for special
It,
education? I mean, how'd you get there?
Yes, I did a little bit of education back with Genesis, some of the basic stuff. I never did it to the extent that guys are doing it now, but I was definitely interested in it, sourced some of my own information. Most of the information, if you search it out, you can find it. And a lot of on the job stuff, working for somebody like a Rick Chafee, for example, he's very good about, hey, Rick's got an engineering background, or at least he's got engineers at his firm, and he can walk you through stuff. Maybe it's something you haven't done before. So you work hand in hand with them. They want you to be successful. They're happy to share with you some stuff maybe you don't know, but he's also very good. And most of the guys, the high end guys, are pretty good about also understanding that you're the guy who has to put it in the ground and your opinion matters too. So it's a collaborative effort to kind of learn through the stuff that you haven't done before and, take some chances. And luckily, again, we were successful.
True enough. I mean, today's modern pools are definitely becoming more difficult to plumb as builders add on multiple water features, or they're tending to build these really elaborate backyards with these crazy elevations. But in a sense, it's also become a little bit easier because of the improved technology and equipment. I was hoping, because this is your bread and butter, could you speak to that a bit and why those two statements can be true at the exact same time?
I think the main thing that actually makes the more complicated stuff easier now with technology, I think it's in you learn it, you develop a better skill set, and you also get better tools, literally better tools. So, the products themselves, there are some products that have made it easier. For example, when sump drains became popular that were cumbersome to install, they required, secondary suction points or atmospheric loops. And as technology has changed, they've come out with the unblockable drains and different types of drain systems that you don't need to do all this ancillary plumbing and stuff like that. So those products have helped. But again, the tools, learning the things as you go. Every time you touch a new product, the next time you touch it, you're a little better, a little better, a little better until you get it and it becomes a little bit easier. So yeah, it is definitely a true statement. That as things develop, they get easier. That as they get feedback from the field, they'll start to engineer their products to make the installers happier, so that they're more willing to install them too. So we see that absolutely.
I first introduced you to the show as the owner of JMAX Companies, but you're best known for JMAX Plumbing. In addition to performing the residential and commercial plumbing services, you got your finger in a few different pies. You got a few different divisions to your company. One focuses on distribution, and I know that you're an official distributor and installer of Pull products. And I was hoping to get you to discuss why Pull and what makes that relationship so unique to you guys.
Sure. So Pool is a firm here in Arizona that the founder, the family, basically the Gettle family is the people who own Pool. Well, Gettle was the patent holder and the developer of Paramount in-floor systems when they were originally in the Valley. They since have sold to Hayward, but so they're a very special family and they have great connections here. And we were connected them through mutual friends. So connecting with them on this latest endeavor just felt good. You know, they're well respected, well known, got a lot of great connections through Buzz Giz and some other people with the family. And they're very receptive to feedback. You know, they're less corporate than maybe some of the other manufacturers. So the fit was right. You know, they're, again, local, great people, good family, and willing to hear all the feedback.
I was checking out some of those products that you guys are distributing for them. I was looking at the specs on the pull return LR1. Now that's designed as a high capacity return that seamlessly blends in with the pool or spa finish. But take us under the hood, Justin. I mean, what makes this product so unique in comparison to other returns on the market?
Yeah, so I'm super proud of that one. We had a big part of that product coming to life, but what makes it so different is there is no other product that does what it's built to do. So that LR1 return it's built for high volume return water. The closest product that exists that we could find, and we've been in the business a long time, is the Stay Right adjustable floor return. And that's really purpose built as a circulation return, not as a feature return. You know, the difference being we're trying to get a bunch of water back through our LR1 to facilitate overflow spas, overflow pools, vanishing edges, Lautner edges. And those simply just didn't exist before. So there wasn't a need for this product. And now they're so common. The need was so great. And here we are. I mean, it's the only product that does what it does. And it does it beautifully too, in my opinion.
There's a lot of people bringing new products to market every year, but I mean, what problems did you guys specifically try to solve with this product that you saw present in other returns?
Yeah, so because there was no purpose-built return for this, the problem we had was inherently the pools that are getting overflow features want to be beautiful. Aesthetics is at the very top of the list. So the only thing we could do before was use either the Stay Right floor returns, which would dot the floor like polka dots with these 4-inch floor returns, or you would do booster suctions in the wall. I say booster suctions because that's what it looks like. We would take the return to the wall of the pool, split it, and then you'd put suction grates over it. So not aesthetically pleasing. They weren't great at mitigating turbulence because that's another thing. These overflow spas and pools, you want to deal with the turbulence. You want it to be glass-like when it overflows. So yeah, that was kind of the goal there.
Well, you said you were giving them feedback that they're very receptive to what you guys were telling them. I mean, how closely were you and JMAX involved with the development of this product?
Certainly, we had no part of the molding or any of that, but we came to them with the idea. We were 100% involved in telling them of the problem that existed, letting them know what we needed out of the product, which was it had to be aesthetically pleasing to solve that issue. Like I just said, where every other option we had didn't have an aesthetic component to it. Had to be able to deal with high volume and had to be turbulence free. So we were 100% involved and very integrated into that portion of it. And then once they got all that information, they took that back to their engineers, and that's when they figured out how to build it, what shape it would be. So yeah, that was the whole front end was we were very involved on a daily basis.
Sure. I mean, that whole prototyping process is pretty iterative. I'm sure you were coming back to them with feedback as you were crash testing it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there was definitely some different iterations of it when it first came out, solved some issues right away. And yeah, we've been installing them now for a while, and it seems like we've got it all ironed out.
Well, I'll ask you some typical questions that folks would probably bound to ask you. You know, how expensive is this product in comparison to others, and how easy is it to install?
So it installs like any other sump drain or channel drain. So the installation method is not very different at all. The main thing about it is you want the sump exposed so that it can be structurally integrated into the pool. So that's the same case with any other sump drain. If you look in the manual, it's going to tell you to leave it exposed so they can get their tie their rebar around it and shoot it integral to the shell. So it's not very different. The cost, if you were using any of the other methods, the stay right returns, or some people were even reversing flow through a channel drain, it's the same price. They're $335, which is comparable to their competitor, if you call it a competitor, but the other solutions you could use. So, for example, if you used an A&A channel drain or something like that, the cost should be within dollars.
I mean, I've seen the spec sheet. It doesn't look very complicated from an installation standpoint. I mean, there's only 7 components in the whole system, but it's
Right.
definitely a sleek looking return. I mean, I think if you're going for a more architectural look in the backyard, this has a certain minimalist look that's going to appeal to a lot of designers.
Absolutely right. Yeah. And its impact on the area that it's installed is super low. And like you said, modern, clean, very, very nice.
Well, another product I want to talk to you about that JMAX distributes is the Pull Collect LD1 debris removal drain. Another real sleek looking, blink and you'll miss it style drain.
Sure.
Like, what makes this particular product so unique in comparison to other drains?
Yeah. So I think two things I think I was very excited about. First, we didn't have any input into the design of this. We just helped them once they were building to kind of work out the kinks, like you said. But I think two things make this drain really unique. One is it doesn't have a cover. So if you look at any of the other products on the market, there's always a cover you can remove. Well, this one doesn't have a cover. All it has is a small service hatch. So you don't have that extra component that can fade or lose color or is even, large. This is just a 1 inch by 34 inch slit. So I think that's one of the main things that sets it apart. The other thing is it's unblockable, so it doesn't need a sidewall suction or another means of entrapment protection. So if you look at some of the other products on the market, you'll still always have with your sump drain paired a sidewall suction as well. So I think those are the two things. And what that boils down to is aesthetics. Small footprint. You don't have a big piece of plastic that has to be on top of it like a pebble tray or something like that. And it's very small and it's an unblockable drain too. So it's very safe.
Is it VGB compliant?
It did. Yep. It's got its VGBA compliance. Yep.
All right. What do you say if you had to give an elevator pitch? I mean, what makes this product a win with pool builders and designers?
Yeah, I think if you're doing pools and you're trying to elevate the look of the pool, it's a purpose-built, aesthetically pleasing drain. Most of the other drains are out there because they're safe. They're out there because, they do debris collection maybe, but this is a debris collecting, aesthetically beautiful drain. So it's checked all the boxes and you pay very little to take your pool from a level that you're at now to a big jump up to what it looks like once this drain's installed. It looks absolutely 100 times better, I think, than some of the other products on the market.
I got to tell you, man, from where I'm looking at, both of these products will look right at home in most of the high-end luxury pools we see being built today. Is
Yeah,
that kind of clientele that this product is really targeting? Folks looking to achieve that kind of architectural minimalist look in their pool applications?
I think absolutely yes. But I also think, not to go on a sales pitch for pool by any means, but I think this product looks good in any level pool. I think it's not cost prohibitive. You could put this in your basic entry level pool all the way up to your very high end. But I do think, just like you saw the evolution of drains and showers in your homes that eventually went to the slot drains, I think higher end clients want higher end finishes, and that's what this answers. This is a higher end, low impact, aesthetically pleasing drain. So I think it does fit at home in the high end stuff, but no reason you couldn't use it in anything just to elevate the look.
Well, what's the best way for pool professionals to get their hands on these two products? We just hop on your website.
Absolutely. They can go right to our website, jmaxplumbing.com. We have a store there. You can locate them there. You can also source them from Pool's website as well.
A lot of great information. Justin, thanks so much for stopping by today to connect with us and discuss these two products with us. Really appreciate having you on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Well, that's all the time we have left today. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and we'll catch you next time on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast.
Today's episode of Pool Magazine Podcast is proudly sponsored by the PSP Deck Expo. The International Pool Spa Patio Expo, co-located with Deck Expo, is where all segments of the industry gather to stay well-informed of the latest trends, market directions, and technology. Come for the 135,000 plus square feet of products, suppliers, and education. And stay longer for networking, special events, and experiences. This year's Expo in Dallas will be held from November 9th through November 14th. To learn more about attending the PSP Deck Expo, visit us on the web at www.poolspapatio.com.